There's like zero green screen on this show. 90% of the set is always there, which is colossal on a TV show, as you guys know.
You can feel the dust, just you wanna bathe.
Yeah. You want to get your tetanus shot.
Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor, a series that focuses on the design and decor of the stories that excite us and ignite our imagination, where we discuss the collaboration between set decorators and production designers and hear first-hand accounts of how these works of art came to be, from their inception, ideas on a page, to completion, when we get to sit in the dark and experience them collectively.
Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. I'm Kristin Peterson, SDSA, and today I'm delighted to welcome Emmy-nominated set decorator Julie Ochipinti and production designer Howard Cummings to discuss their outstanding collaboration on Season 2 of Prime Video's Fallout. Based on the acclaimed video franchise, Fallout transports audiences to richly imagined post-apocalyptic world where retro-futuristic design, dark humor, and striking visual storytelling collide. Julie and Howard have created an unforgettable landscape that is inventive as it is immersive, bringing the wasteland to vivid life. Julie and Howard, thank you so much for joining me, and congratulations to both of you on your Emmy nomination for your exceptional work on this series. I've got to be honest right out the bat, I was so impressed with this. This is not my genre that I watch usually. I'm going to watch the whole show now. It's
Great.
and truly just the look of it is just blew me away. I really was so transported, truly. This whole world was very iconic in the gaming world. How did you guys get involved in this process?
I actually worked on season 1 in New York, and Regina Graves was the decorated in New York, and Amazon and Jonah Nolan, who is our executive producer, decided to bring the show to LA. And one of the things, considering season 1 was actually set in LA, there are reasons that we're in New York. They committed to moving we have one large set, which is the vault set, and it's an underground vault, 77 semis to move it. And so it was a huge project, and Regina had acquired quite a lot of decorating items as well, which also got shipped. So I had to start the season with a whole new group of people who didn't really understand the game. And then, like you said, if you know the game at all, there's a lot of story. It's like the Bible practically. In order to get through it, I would actually play the history of Fallout on YouTube and fall asleep at night. And then when Julie arrived, when it started her, she said, "How the hell am I going to get to know all this stuff?" And I said, "Listen, I don't know. We don't know. We have a great research team. They do, a researcher, Lance Melbourne. He's amazing. And you can watch the fans online do playthroughs, and they talk about it, and they create their own things." And I said, "Just do that." And what was great about that is I got to see what they all liked
Mm.
and what they thought was important. And so I said, "You'll get it." And she wasn't convinced, but you did, right? So.
Yeah, because it's such a stray. I've never done something that was previously a world. I've always done shows or movies that are sort of our own thing. So this was like, ooh, I have to follow something else. I've never done a season 2. I've always sort of been around from the beginning. So it was kind of like, oh crap. But then I know Regina from Howard from years prior. She helped me out when we were doing Westworld. We got a bunch of stuff from her from the Nick. And she's awesome, and she was super helpful on this show because I was like, "What the hell is this?"
I had Jules go meet with Regina in New York, and I said, "No, no, you should go. There's a lot of good stuff." We had a huge warehouse for the Nick. Wasn't surprised they really hit it off, and I think
Yeah.
didn't Regina say, "Aren't you from New Jersey?"
I know, I'm a secret New Yorker, really. I'm a wannabe New Yorker.
I know.
But we got, like, she sent us, like, 20 trucks of set dressing. We have an entire warehouse full of Fallout stuff, which is amazing 'cause in New York, you have to buy a lot of stuff.
getting through the inventory. Millie Milstein's our lead man, and he like trying to set up the warehouse was like a huge task actually, and was at Western. Just getting through that all was sort of entertaining Jules in the beginning, like, where is all this stuff? And then have a unfortunate memory for all that kind of stuff. Oh no, that's in there somewhere. And I would tell
Yeah,
everybody.
because Howard was, like, the only person in the art department who was on season 1, so the entire crew, which we all knew Howard from Westworld because we were all on Westworld together, so at least, thank God, we had that group together who kinda knew each other, but all this stuff, we were like, "What is this?" Because it's atomic future, it's weird steampunk-ish, like, it's so many, and then you got cool Rat Pack, and you've got very game-specific stuff that you would only know watching the nerd videos, which, thank God, I got through hours of just watching people explain what this is, and what this faction does, and what they represent, and who's their god, and it's like, oh my god, it's like so like Howard said, it is literally like the Bible. There's so many different groups within the show that it took me, like, 2 months in my off time. Luckily, I knew this job was coming just to get through all the information, so when I showed up, I felt, like, slightly knowledgeable, but only just, 2% compared to this season where we all know a lot more coming back this season.
And then the thing is that even though there's all this, great source material, we're not literally interpreting the game. Plus, our showrunners were wise enough not to set our time frame as different. So therefore, things have changed. So we get to make up our own stuff, which is the really fun part. And the show also includes a lot of flashbacks to what would be before the apocalypse, and
Mhm.
that's not in the game either. And so, sort of finding the style for what those flashbacks are, although they have to adhere to what the game might, what that futurism is. We went to like the original concept art and not always to the game. Because you go through the game and, that's been processed to become more flexible and stuff. So they kind of eliminate some detail or that kind of nuance. And so we would go back and look at the original concepts and try to infuse that back into what you're watching. It's still within the realm of things, but it has that believability and realness that we're trying to get.
And the videos were so funny because there's literally, like, one Formica table that they would just use in every single set, and
Yeah,
one
they repeat stuff.
just so you're looking at the wealth of stuff, and you're like, "Oh, they have 3 things in set deck here in the entire game that they just reuse everywhere."
Although sometimes we actually repeat stuff
Yeah.
because it's that way. Building the choices out, so Jules and I would call up and we figure out like, what the best approach for, the particular scene was and then work from there. And there's a level of detail that isn't like I said, that is in the game. Jules would kind of latch on. She's really great at character and telling story with the set decorating. The history is all there. She's thought it all out.
Ad nauseum.
Ad nauseam. Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes it's like, "Oh my god," the
Stop, Jules.
backstory on some of these people. Some of this goes by so fast, but if you actually stop and look at it, and actually are fans of the game who are fans of the show, actually freeze frame things, and you'll see endless blogging going on about the meaning of things, that we might have just put there. It's not always informed. Usually it is, or we make a choice based on what we think should be there. Our show actually changes the game. For the gamers, we're changing the game because we're giving history they don't have. So we get a lot of feedback, which is I've never had that experience on other things. Also, like Jules, like when we did a big set, it was Las Vegas Strip, and I got the bright idea to do it in an abandoned shopping mall in Valley Village. The set you're looking at here actually is kind of a part of that sequence. This is a penthouse of this sort of Howard Hughes type guy who's taken over Las Vegas, and he's planning to survive the apocalypse by turning this giant tower that he lives into, like anti-ballistic missiles are built into it and stuff. Up there at the very top is where we were just in that room. An approach we all take working with Jonah Nolan and the way to do things and to make the game more real is to do as much in camera as possible. So rather than build like out in a big field and put down a parking lot, we actually went to this real shopping mall that had been defunct for years because some of the architecture actually did fit the game. And so we built facades for the other parts. So it's a huge dress, massive.
All the light fixtures just really sell the space.
We've got an amazing fixture guy, Damon Leibowitz, and he is unbelievable. All that neon, all that lighting is practical. As we sort of took an approach where if it was on a sign, it was real neon. And if it was low, it was a real neon. And then we shifted to LED for things that were higher up because just cost. It was
Yeah.
because there was so much of it.
We're definitely practical builds. There's like zero green screen on this show. It's really all Howard with, some extensions, but 90% of the set is always there, which is colossal on a TV show, as you guys know.
You can feel the dust, just you want to bathe.
Yeah. You want to get your tetanus shot.
What you're looking at is a rethinking of the Welcome to Las Vegas style, and this is directly from the game. This was sort of the area right outside of what has now been a walled-off area of Las Vegas. Lucy is about to shoot a bunch of Elvis-inspired ghouls who are trying to kill her. Again, we took another section of this shopping mall and then transformed all of this, and the idea is that they had camped out here and in 1950s campers that were all pulled up and then all dressed.
Yeah, what does an Elvis impersonator need in his trailer?
Yeah, those were abandoned buildings behind that were all boarded up, and we pulled the boards off and painted it all and added stuff in, but it then layered in all the dressing, that detritus of the apocalypse in here. There's a kind of a part of Las Vegas that hasn't been walled off and protected, and this is called Freeside, and you can see they salvaged letters from different signs, the Golden Globes palisades from the game. This was actually the western town that we used in Westworld. We refaced the buildings to not be Western, and because we needed this contained place to do it. Where you see the casino there on the right, we built that tall facade for a scene where somebody gets thrown out a window. Here's a new army sort of showing up to help fight a battle with some monsters that we did practically with things called a death claw. Those are the acts in the
Okay.
casino, like Dean Domino, and those are actually from the game and stuff. There are game-specific places in this landscape, but there are other stores that we had to dress windows and stuff. There's one, Jules goes, "This one's called Domestic Bliss." I said, I want it to be an appliance store. And she goes, "Well, they would have been raided and changed." And so she made it like an appliance store that was taken over in Amsterdam by very scantily dressed mannequins. And it was sort of like a feminist French maids vacuuming, but they were very like authoritative. All of this is like Jules telling stories just behind the camera constantly.
Whether anyone sees them or not is another thing, but I know they're there.
I love the dark humor in it, and that gives you an opportunity as a decorator. Like, did you plant little eggs, like entertain yourself? Like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if?
The production is really trusting of me at this point because it literally is 10 years I've been working with Kilter and with Howard. So they kind of let me get away with absolute mayhem, which I love because I will just go and go until, Howard pulls me off the set and just keep adding in ridiculous things that we get such pleasure from because at that point I need the pleasure. I need
Right.
the I need to be entertained by our own world because we're usually at that point we're under the gun, we're under pressure from the shooting crew who's on our heels. So I have such amazing crew who all have the greatest sense of humor that we just laugh and we do the dumbest things that no one will ever see but us. Like Howard said, the fans do see these things and they really appreciate them. So it really just I would have a very hard time working on a show that wasn't ridiculous at a certain point because I need to kind of vent my anxiety and my my stress by doing really silly things. I was saying to Howard that we knew we were on to a winner when we were shooting out in that mall, Valley Village Mall, which is, basically you go there to buy your drugs when you're not shooting there. It was like homeless encampment, total hell on earth. And we sort of kicked everybody out and built this amazing Vegas set. And within a few days, people started showing up around the perimeter, and there was a whole, like, fallout channel of people watching the filming that was going on, and everybody got word that this was happening, and pretty soon there's all these poles sticking up with cameras on the top to get over the fence to try to see what we're doing, and it was
They're
all
trying to
over.
do yeah,
Yeah.
predict what the show is gonna do, and they're arguing about, like, "It doesn't look like that." Well, you don't find out until later why it doesn't look like that. Because,
Yeah,
like I said, this season was different than season 1 in that we were honoring a specific game, and it's called Fallout in Vegas.
and that's all real, like, that is all 100% set.
That tower in the background is added in the yeah,
The hotel, yeah, but
yeah.
that's all legit. Everything you're looking at there's my domestic bliss in the background there, my ladies. She's vacuuming in her fabulous French maid outfit.
The broken overpass is also added. There's the School of Impersonation. There's all different bars and stuff. We sort of combined all the big hits of this part of the game and put them on in a 2 block setup that we did. So it's really a challenge in that way where you're trying to realize something on a certain scale. The choice in season 1 that we made was, let's try to do all the detail of the game. Let's try to that's what the challenge is, like, our props department is insane.
Yeah.
Brad Einhorn and Andy, they have so many crazy props that we have to make. Jules also we'll have to come up with some crazy device. How do they get power here? How did they do, those things aren't explained in the game, and we have to sort of like figure out how do we tie all these things together. And thank God it is not just post-apocalyptic because it's loaded with color and humor. And we can lean into that. I mean, there's certainly emotional parts to the show and story-wise, but there's also this humor, so we don't have to take ourselves so seriously, and it frees you up to, like, there's a scene with a woman selling flea soup in the middle of nowhere, and it was just described as a shack, and I think our showrunner, Geneva Robinson Doret, she said, "Howard, it's just a shack, okay?" I said, "I get it, you don't really want me to spend a lot of money on this one, do you?" She said, "Not really," and I said, "Okay, I get it." But we had a leftover giant guard tower, 30 feet tall, and we had a bunch of extra halves of Cadillacs and stuff, so the shack was a 30-foot tall shack with car parts, and I had found like, a sort of whole like, a game reference of this MacGyvered kind of cooking thing, which is absurd because you're making flea soup, which you don't really need all that. And I handed it to Jules and I said, "Can you do this on top of this hill that you have to kind of crawl? Everybody has to, you can only take it in a gator." What we could get on a forklift that had to go up this thing. And it's like, but Jules had done this whole like thing of this outdoor kitchen with these giant tanks and belching smoke and stuff. And I said, because we just can't do a little
Yeah,
shack.
we loved is I that's one of my favorite sets, actually.
And then how did you bring, like, all the kitchen stuff? Where did you source that from? Where did you
Well, luckily, we have amazing deals at Warner Brothers and Universal, so, hopefully they're not listening, but I just raid the shit out of those. I'm in the basement taking everything every day.
We do that, and then there's other times where you do that, but, like, some of the flashbacks, we leaned into it being less game-like and more period-centric, even though it's in the future, leaning into the sort of 50s and 60s, and that involves going out and finding crazy hi-fi that you have to go buy all this, and you lay in that stuff with this other stuff, so
Well, luckily, our friends at Omega, they have such beautiful period things that I go outside my deal for pre-war stuff is usually too fabulous for my deal, so I have to kinda spend the money, which is amazing to be able to do.
those are all period.
Slot machines and
I love the juxtaposition of sort of the harshness of the apocalyptic, and then you have the beautiful sort of quaintness of these old-fashioned radios.
Well, I lean a lot on Howard for a lot of this stuff because his eye is really quite
I'm
incredible
sort of
with.
stuck in this period, but
Yeah, he
to
really
be
is.
honest, if you go to my house, it's
He
a little
lives it.
embarrassing. Yeah. But
So I really lean into him to help with his eye on these really sort of pre-war beautiful sets. I can do skanky. I tend to be a bit more of a skanky person and dirty, and I lean a little bit on him for the more lovely things and my shoppers, of course, thank God.
this was the Palladium. This is a VFX shot. Obviously, we do VFX shots, but based on some models that I drew up from the game. But the Palladium had that kind of late 40s kind of deco-y sweeping stuff. And they had some lighting, a lot of accent lighting. So we just layered it on for the opening sequence of episode 5. It all leaned into this like hyper neon kind of look. So it had to, like, we did it in the street, and then it had to continue to the sort of lobby. To do that whole sequence, it was the abandoned shopping mall, the Palladium, and then that penthouse set was on digital stage in Culver City. Amazon has a volume. We have a virtual art department as well. And Jules hadn't done that before, and it's an interesting process. The volume itself, that penthouse is huge, and so to extend it to make it bigger, and then all the view outside the window was completely interactive and shot all together. So I made them actually shoot this and match this shot. But all that sort of the computer monitors and stuff, a lot of those are vintage monitors, the small ones. That was all in camera, practical. So everything except you can sort of see where the set stops with the on the balcony level, you can see the roof. The only thing we extended is just above that roof. So it's really all in camera. I drew these kind of simple chandeliers, and Jules ended up finding these beautiful, like vintage ones that we ended up using. These sheer curtains that were put in as a way of transitioning to the digital wall, so you could still see it. That's all on there, and then endless built-in lighting. But all those monitors and stuff had to be manufactured, and
This was a real wow set. I mean, this was the set that is 90% built bar that really what you're looking at out the windows. Howard, this was the set that Jonah brought the state senators to, wasn't it?
back. I mean, it was a conscious effort on I know Jonah Nolan's part to bring some work back to LA. And Amazon got on board with it. And so when they started to lobby for the incentive to return, Jonah actually went and got like senators to come down from Sacramento and do tours of the sets. The sets are so big. A lot of these people had never been on a set that size. And I think at the time they showed up, I think we were shooting that shopping mall. We were shooting in the volume. We had stages at LA North, the ranch, at a Melody Ranch, and so there was a lot to show. And they kept, Jules said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing some dog and pony show for a bunch of senators." And I didn't understand. They didn't tell me completely why, but these people had never seen something on that scale. And I sort of figured out at that moment, I think we were hitting about, in the art department, if you included everybody, it was about 375 people. And then there were 30 drivers. So we were like 400 people just in the art department, so I could sort of throw out some of this stuff for them. And yeah, and they went up when they did the vote and helped lobby and stuff. So I do think it helped like a great deal to try to bring, that back. And, one reason I think have such an amazing crew is we started right after the writer's strike, and just everybody was available. And, it's a fun show. So people did want to work on it. So I have just like a killer crew. All I have to do is sort of think it up and it will happen. Sometimes I don't even have to do that because they'll come to it. I have such good people. Shouldn't it be like this? And I go, yes.
We just have to resuscitate you sometimes for you to think it up. The amount of work Howard does is thank God I'm not the art director.
And the scale and the pace, it is a TV show. We don't get endless time to dress sets. Can we possibly do this in a day? I mean, we have some giant dresses that are a day. This was almost entirely set decorating, this whole sequence.
I think this was actually a big dress for us. We had like 5 days. Usually we only get 2, 3 days on big sets, but I think we had 5 days here. But this was out in
Corriganville. It was in this state park. And actually, I think of Fort Apache was the movie had been shot here. There's a little plaque, historic plaque. But I was allowed to bulldoze, thank God. And they let us bulldoze and level this place up. But the story is these faction of wastelanders found a book about ancient Rome and believed that the only way to create law and order was to bring back ancient Rome, including the practice of having slaves and this whole thing. And so it's like totally all tents.
every time we put up tents, Mother Nature says, "Oh no, you
Yeah,
don't."
destroyed and then had to be put back in a day.
And there's a sequence in here where there's two opposing camps, so we had to do double. I read that and your heart just goes, "Oh God, no." Two entire camps in this valley that was, full of snakes and wind and lots of stunts and special effects and
But Jules is master of all this handmade fashion stuff, because they're cobbling together stuff and then finding wacko things to stick in that they randomly found.
it was fun. It was lots of game things that we snuck in, the way that they would spar with each other and the way that they cook their food. There's all sort of very specific things that we threw in, and nobody ever knew we were doing these things until the showrunner would show up and go, "Oh man, that's the thing from the game." And so it was fun because I remember James from Bethesda, he came onto
We
the
have a
set.
producer, James Altman, we do have a Bethesda producer is on set.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is exactly like the game." You can tell when he's in his total fandom stage that we're doing well. This was cuckoo, and then it was all destroyed by the wind. So we had to redress this, I think, 3 different times because it kept getting destroyed.
And then we had to do it in the parking lot of behind the stage.
Yeah, you always end up in a parking lot somewhere.
What was the tent maker you used for that?
Universal just manufactured all those. We made all those.
The game has very odd framing for all these, and you're seeing the inside of it. So we couldn't it's like trying to make it rational, functional, and struggle with making it look similar to the game. It's harder than you think. So there's a lot of like putting it up, looking at it, taking it down, redoing it, and then having the painters and everybody getting the time to layer and age it. He has this beautiful antique furniture of this like that it randomly found with lots of fabrics and furs, and all the tents are draped in what we couldn't imagine was probably came from a Las Vegas casino. Right, this like fabric, which is why they have it, and then things from like Caesar's Palace. I think these emblems that are not very well executed. But do we do it that way? There's lots of talk about like, do we improve that? How do we do that?
And I got to think up all lovely ways of torturing people, which I quite enjoy.
Mixed in with World War II guns, there's no rules here, and well, there are, but there aren't.
Well, that's what's fun, and they're wearing, like, football, helmets, and so you get a great mix of, like, the ludicrous with the
Yeah, we're Dana Pink, our costume designer, had a lot of fun in
yeah,
here.
she did amazing stuff here.
And do you work with her? Like, do you talk to her as these sets come up?
Oh,
Very
yeah.
much so. Yeah, we all like to play together in our
Yeah, braziers galore, lots of carpeting and fabrics.
lots of fire and death. Yeah, it's great.
It's great. The helmet comes off, and then it's Macaulay Culkin. Who knew?
I can just see, I mean, like, just the color, and then, of course, the framing, you're working with the DP. It seems like the collaboration, it seems seamless. I know there's so much work that goes into this.
For
but
sure, and it's like we were saying earlier, the guys keep coming back, our DPs keep coming back, we're back, which makes the show, like, so survivable, is that we have the shorthand with everybody. There's very few new people to try to,
Mhm.
like, crash them into this world. Everybody kind of gets it. We know everybody's under the same pressure, so no one's, there's no dicks around. It's like, oh, you're having a bad day, you're having a good day. Okay, let's feed off each other. Who can do the work today? Who can.
They're in the same boat as everybody. They're thrown in this world and they go, "What is this?" They actually look to us to kind of educate them and stuff. And they're actually generous in that way. They're like, any information will help us to reinforce this sort of film look, because we shoot on film. It's a TV show shot on film. It's all shot on film. And even in the digital stages, we shoot film on a digital stage, which nobody does. This is all to make it feel like that 1950s Western look. We always lean into backlight and stuff. And so our concept artists and set designers, they all, like everybody, we model almost every set. And then a lot of times we use what's called Unreal, which is a way of modeling where you can actually put the sun in. So we work with the DPs on how to position things exactly for the time of day that we're going to be shooting. It's actually all driven by that. We're getting this other sequence where Jules went crazy, which is great. There's a sequence where, for some reason, in Area 51, the world decided to start hoarding the treasures of the world and anything rare, and they bury it under sand. So there's this sequence where giant fans come out of the ground, and this group has blow away the sand to reveal these hangars that were in Ontario. There's some period correct hangars out in Ontario. And weirdly, they had replaced the runway, and they tore up the runway, and they took all the debris, and instead of putting it in a landfill, just put it behind these hangars. So there's these giant mounds of dirt that look like sand dunes. So it's exactly like the script. You can see that. So there's a little playground in the middle of. We shot this in Dumont Dunes up by Baker, and there's this like secret hatch that opens up this device that starts the fans.
Inside of a playground rocket ship. I love it.
So this he's inserting a power core to get this thing to start up. We built all that. And then this is on the digital stage. So this is a giant dirigible on the stage. And that's on the digital wall. We took helicopters and filmed where we were shooting in Dumont Dunes. So in the digital stages, you can extend into the digital wall, like the architecture and stuff, but you also have to do all the dressing. So Jules, months in advance, has to get what we're going to dress it. We have to figure out where the dressing goes. And, there's netting, and so it all has to be made well in advance. And then we put it in. So it's pretty complicated.
It wasn't fun because I had never done volume work before. It was like months in advance. You have to know the set. And I was like, huh? I don't speak that language.
Sometimes you don't actually have a complete script for this stuff either.
But like all things, you realize, it's still just a set. Even though it's on the volume, it's just a set. It just sounds frightening because there's so much tech behind it.
The fans are actually digital. We did not make that. The environment, however, is real. And then so inside this giant hangar are the world's stored things. And so I said, or how do you digitally extend this? Because it's like, and we've talked about how the best way to do this giant hangar full of stuff. And I said, well, we need shelving, and we need, would go back, and I was negotiating with Jules about how do we do this? And could it be replicated? But the stuff wasn't able to be digitally replicated like you normally would do. Like, Raiders of the Lost Ark, when you go into the giant warehouse, the archive, it's all digitally extended because it's all crates that are all, and they can just digitally extend. But this wasn't the case story-wise. And so she just did it. She filled up this entire thing, and it was like a crazy mix of the Ark of the Covenant and the Mona Lisa, and then a space alien and a freezer and jet parts.
Yeah, you could have fun with it because we're not doing a documentary. We're not doing, anything anything period per se. It's just this great mix of ludicrous and reality a bit.
That shot that we just said, that was all real, including the guy in armor. Most shows would do that all digitally, this armor, but we actually make that.
Do you still, because so many shows now, you struggle with clearance, and you seem to be creating your own art and whatnot. Do you still struggle with the clearance thing, or is that just
It's really not bad because, like you said, most is generated by our graphics department and Howard. So much stuff is in the game that, you get clearance from Bethesda.
like the names of things and stuff, but I'm still there's plenty of it. But because we're set in the year 2277, it's not based on a world that actually exists. We do get a little more freedom than most people do. But
so and as far as sourcing, I mean, it seems like you have so much creativity. I mean, wow, where did that come from? And where would you have gotten that? And
Sometimes I try to pull myself back a little bit, which is kinda hard because 'cause I'm obviously a bit of a drug addict when it comes to set deck, but, yeah, there's a lot of freedom on this show to kinda keep going until like, that's all dressed, none of that is extended. That might have been 20 trucks as well, full of
it's
set
because
dressing.
the producer called me about it.
Yeah. I
And
I
that's how I know the number. Well, I said, "Well, think how much you're saving in visual effects."
when you're dressing, what's that process look like when you bring 20 trucks in? How do you even begin?
We did sit down and put a map of logic of how the thing was, and then we had our director had an idea about what things he wanted to hit in this walkthrough.
Very rarely do I show up and just try to figure things out on my own. The art department, we work very closely to try to have a plan, a furniture plan, floor plan of everything. So, which is super helpful to me because if I'm doing 2 sets that day, the guys and the gals can start and they have the plan to work off of, and then I can come at the end and throw a bomb on it all, but no, not normally. But it's very helpful to have so much information before we get in because it would be impossible to do this show without furniture plans and floor plans. It'd just be you couldn't do it.
From designer to designer, do you do your own furniture plans or does Howard do your furniture plans for you? How do you guys work?
We sit together.
I'll scribble something, but I always get because then we have to sit down and go through it all.
Yeah, on the back of a bus on a tech scout, it's literally thank God Howard can draw. I cannot draw to save my life. So he just starts scribbling and I'm like, yeah, let's move that over here. And I'll show him pictures of fun stuff that he wouldn't have known I was finding these ridiculous things. And then he gets all excited and wants to add that in.
And so when did you two start working together? Like, what was the first thing that you two did together?
I didn't do the pilot of Westworld. I came in on season 2. I love the show so much. I said, "Sure." And so I came in and I was forced to hire Jules. No, I didn't realize she was sort of the heart of the style and look of that show rested so much in the decorating and in what she brought to the show that I couldn't have done it without. She was like my teacher. What happened to her when she'd done season 2 of Fallout was the same position I was in when I arrived on Westworld. And so she sort of taught me like what this the Westworld style, and I learned that all from Jules. And I realized, in production meetings and stuff, she's one of the main speakers, especially in that show. For some reason, the decorating drove a lot of the story.
How much do you guys participate? Like in the concept meetings, are they relying on you for like, oh, we could get this or that's something we could have or
Yeah, I mean, you know how those things go. Usually it's you talk about hair and blood and stunts. I kind of learned since Westworld, I kind of am a bit more quiet in these things now. I'm trying to just absorb more than because so much of the stuff that I do comes in after this has all been developed. So I can listen for once. I'm trying to listen a bit better and not be such a loud mouth in the background all the time, which is not easy.
good to learn new skills?
Exactly. Listening and then coming in with, I like to be the one who goes, I can find you a big giant, rad roach that looks like I like to sort of swoop in at the end and have everybody go, oh, great. Because it's almost like there's so much going on with development of creatures and effects that my stuff is almost a little bit more of a surprise in a weird way because they just kind of assume it'll be good. They don't really beat me up about anything. It's really the only way I can survive because if I had to do all the meetings of showing every bit of furniture, I do not have to do that.
We have like huge lookbooks for every episode, over 100 pages. Because especially for new directors and stuff, they don't understand what this is or what the language is, and so we'll have all the set decorating, what we're planning to use and stuff, and all the plans and all the things, and so it even reference materials and game reference materials, so like period and game. So they're huge. Like I can't print them anymore; they're too big, But
Well, and
um,
it's like you said, it's helpful for people who don't know the show because then, like, I can just give them the book and say, "Get it close to this. I'll be back." There's so much information there already because, like Howard said, there has to be, or you couldn't survive without
Yeah.
these reference books.
Everyone can be working toward the same thing since you've created that. So is that something you're obviously adding to that as you go?
Oh, constantly. Yeah. We have a director who was in season 2 is now. We're in season 3 right now, which is even for some reason bigger. I don't know how. After last year, she just go, well, Jules will just do her thing in here and I will like have every piece of layering in there. She doesn't even ask because she says, I know it will be there. It's become shorthand because they can see, those sets are always detailed.
It seems like you know it so well that they don't even really know what to ask for. They just know you know it so well that you'll
Exactly. That's when, yeah, that kind of trust. Jules definitely has because she definitely knows what this world is.
there is, I think, nothing more fun than creating a world, but also it seems like you have really, really run with it and with such grace. It seems like, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of yelling and swearing, but
Thank you.
We
There's a
actually
lot of
don't have much
yeah.
time to yell and swear. We're just
Yeah.
it's more
Well, and there's a lot
yeah,
of fun. We really all do have a lot of fun with the creative choices or just something that we like I said we get such pleasure from that it kind of fuels us when we're out of energy.
all the different departments feed each other. Like graphics always comes up with some wacko thing, and we all laugh. And we had something with a popcorn cart recently, like bizarre application of a popcorn cart. And we're commenting back and forth about it, so it's fun. It's just really nothing's out of bounds for us, unless it's like diametrically opposed to something in the game. But even Todd Howard, who's Bethesda, said to me, for when we were started season 2, he said, "Oh, so you're gonna do what you did the last time, just take the game and make it even better." I said, "I hope so. We're gonna try."
But yeah, season 3 is actually going to be, like Howard said, somehow more. It's like there is everything is kind of supersized in a way that you won't believe some of the stuff we actively just did.
I think the reason is because we as a team learned so much on season 2. Like,
Mm.
I can't keep telling everybody how to like, this is what it is. And then at a certain point, I didn't have to anymore. It's like, it was weird. And the entire crew, almost all at the same time around episode 3, we have supervising art director, is a very good friend of mine, David Lizanne. He's going, we can't possibly build sets in less than 2 weeks. And we were down to like really big sets in 4 days. I mean, you have to do them a certain way and you can't do everything that way. And then it's just like, okay, no, we can't possibly do that, but you can if you think of it this way. Everybody's like, they all knew, oh, I know how to do it and I knew how to sell it and make it the game. And even unfortunately, we don't want to be doing sets that quickly, but they weren't saying we can't anymore. They just said, yeah, sure, let's bring it on because they liked the thing. It's funny if something gets thrown out there and it seems impossible, the funny reaction is that if it's exciting, everybody just wants to do it. And I was watching that all happen in real time, going like, oh my God, they've all gotten the addiction to this kind of like, let's make it as fun as we can and as exciting. And okay, it's 20 trucks. Yeah, okay. And they're trying to talk the producers into like not killing us.
Because it's 20 trucks of cool, it's not 20 trucks of an office. The cuckoo stuff makes it all kind of okay.
I love the office that we did for there's one kind of underground secret place that's not in the game, and we didn't even know what it was. But I found this great location, Branch X. They had a kind of a crazy name that meant nothing. We found a building in Culver City called the Rapper Building, and it's this insane piece of architecture. And everybody is, "Why are we here?" And I said, "Well, imagine if this was underground." And they went, "Oh." There was a huge unfinished room. In the script, it was written as a bullpen where Kyle MacLachlan has found this place. And I said, "How many matching tanker desks can you get me, Jules?" And I showed her the room. She goes, "Oh." And then Rand came back, and I remember the lighting was, because he couldn't really tie into the building. We had to suspend these. So everything has to be matching. And, it's like 30 desks. And it's just so cool to walk in. It was like a completely glass and very different from the rest of the show. I didn't know what the heck we were doing, but I said, okay, it's like that famous movie, The Apartment. We had to clean up a lot of desks. I remember trying to make them
Yes.
all look perfectly.
All from advanced. Yeah. They all went back better than we got them, which they always love.
Well, that had a lot of credibility with your vendors too, which is really
Yes. They always they know it'll come back in better shape. And if it doesn't, we're still good for our word at the moment.
The crew is that way too, actually, because we're doing a lot of crazy things really quickly, and our crew has been amazing that way. So
Well, and we live here and we don't want to, piss everybody
yeah,
off.
we all want to work in LA too.
Yeah.
I mean,
We got to
that's
come
right.
back. So
I mean, I really do think that trying to do TV on this scale, it needs to start happening. You can do it here. The people are here for sure. Would we have had more money in the art department if we were in Budapest? Probably, but is that better? It's not better. You don't have to have that. You just have to think better. And then when the resources and the people here, and it's also, this story is particularly American in a weird way, having to do it in LA. And this last season, we didn't go abroad. When I was in New York, we had to go abroad. And here we did pretty much everything
in California.
in California. We traveled, and so you can get so many different looks and stuff. So
We're happy to have EC Props back and LCW and Omega and Advanced and Universal and Warner Brothers. And we try to support outside of our deals as much as possible, because you can get quite, I don't want to say lazy, but you can really lean a lot on our deal vendors. And I try to, especially with Omega right now, try to help them as much as possible. And they have such beautiful stuff that is nice to feel like we're doing our part, because we can. We do have some money. We're not the billionaire show that we look like because we have our deals, but we can help where we can. And it makes us feel really good to know that we're employing people who are losing their hours. And
the producers and we all talk about spreading the work across vendors. Yeah, I certainly do a lot of work with creatures and robots, and there's a lot. There's really great people here, but we try to spread it out and support the people that we hear, especially the ones who are struggling. So.
Well, thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate your time and the work that you're doing, the fact that you're keeping it in LA and in
yes, appreciate the time that you guys are spending in the pro level of your organization, and it's awesome. We love you guys. You're great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Inside the Set with Set Decor. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, SETDECOR.com.